journalist and political analyst Ryan Chilcote joins me live now. Ryan, Belarus is now threatening to turn off the taps and stop the gas that passes through Belarus on its way to Europe. Are these empty threats, or could that be a possibility?
Well, it's difficult to know. So far, he has said that this is a possibility. Just to back up for a second, Western Europe, the European Union, gets about 40% of its natural gas from Russia. About 20% of that natural gas, so 8% of all of the natural gas that Western Europe or the European Union needs, travels through Belarus. So that's what he's threatening to turn off, if you will. Ultimately, of course, though, it's Russian gas. So if he was to turn it off, he would be upsetting the Russians, unless, of course, they're aware of this threat and they are behind this threat. We just don't know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we need to say that Russia obviously has denied any involvement in the crisis. Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, we understand, has been on the phone to Vladimir Putin. Is Russia keen to resolving this issue now?
Oh, 100%. And, you know, you have to think about Russia's motivations. On the one hand, Gazprom is Russia's state-backed or state-owned gas provider for the world and for Western Europe. You know, the Russians love to talk about how no matter what the geopolitical situation, they have always fulfilled their contracts to the European Union, to Western Europe. They've always provided the gas, no matter how acrimonious the political situation has been. So Russia, of course, really wouldn't want to step away from that beautiful pronouncement that no matter what, they always provide the gas. Customers can rely on Gazprom. On the other hand, I guess you could argue in this case, if the Russians are denying that they have any knowledge of this, they could say, hey, this wasn't us, this isn't us, this is Alexander Lukashenko, you know, he's his own man, he's maybe a bit of a rogue entity. He's the one making this threat. And in a way, that actually, in theory, could be useful to Russia, because Russia right now is trying to get approval for what's called Nord Stream 2, a giant gas pipeline that would provide more gas to Western Europe under the North Sea. So in other words, what they want to do, and the pipeline is already there, they're just waiting for the European regulators to sign on the dotted line, is diversify the routes through which they can supply gas to Western Europe. Well, if they can say, hey, here's another reason why you have to approve that pipeline. Look at what people like the Ukrainians or this Lukashenko guy do. You need to diversify that network. Well, maybe this could play into the Russians' hands. But again, this could just be Alexander Lukashenko being Alexander Lukashenko.
Yeah, I mean, all the while, these migrants are being used as political pawns in this wider dispute. So going forward, how should the EU now deal with Belarus in order to try to resolve some of these issues which sparked the crisis in the first place? Are more sanctions the solution?
It's a good question. Yeah, you know, they're almost cannon fodder, aren't they? And the threat of turning off the natural gas is really kind of an expansion and a potential escalation of the conflict, saying, okay, not only are these migrants going to freeze, the 2,000, which the Europeans would argue Lukashenko has sort of forced into this position and using as a weapon, right? But now you too are going to freeze because I'm going to turn off this gas. So that could be what's going on here. How does the EU deal with it? Oosh, more sanctions? I mean, I don't know. The EU would look bad if they didn't escalate the sanctions after they already said they would. Are the sanctions going to change anything in Belarus overnight? No, definitely not. So I think that they can go ahead, you know, politically speaking, with their sanctions. They, at this point, have to. But they really have to be talking to the Russians. And ultimately, if the Russians say, if they convince the Russians that this must not happen, then it won't happen. Even if Alexander Lukashenko is acting rogue at the moment, at the end of the day, the Russians decide how far this goes.
OK, Ryan, thanks for your views. Appreciate it as always. Ryan Chilcote joining us there live.